Hey guys, what's up? It's your Vial, back at it again with a very epic video for you. I thought I'd shake things up a bit with this one, and be a little transparent for once, with a draw my life. Before we get into the drama that is my existence, don't forget to smash that like button, comment below, and subscribe to join the Glass Gang, cause we out here staying fragile and fierce. So here's the deal, I've got a bit of amnesia. Kind of mysterious, kind of iconic. All I know about my origin is I ended up at the Fig Springs mission site in what's now Columbia County, Florida. From what I can gather, there's quite a few possibilities for my origin. One is that I was born at a glass-blowing factory somewhere in Spain or Italy. Another is that I started life right here in North America. Although I got a feeling I was a little too advanced for the technology they had. Either way, I've been a Floridian as long as I can remember. It seems like my amnesia is a result of nearly 400 years underground. That's what Dr. Brent Weissman and his team told me when I was excavated in 1989. It was such a shock seeing them in this modern world though. The last memory I have before my extended slumber was the mission I considered my home desolate. Before we get to that point though, there's a lot more I want to share. Back in the early 1600s, Florida was really starting to become a great colony. At least, that's what I'd like to say. In reality, Florida was really struggling to live up to the expectations of the Spanish. Without gold, Florida had a really tough time justifying their existence. Resources were constantly having to be sent over from the mainland, and the costs were starting to build up. Aside from the peninsula's excellent geographic location, it took a while for Spain to see where Florida's value truly lied, with the native tribes. Since they couldn't find any resources, why not produce some themselves? And what better way to do this than farming? There was a ton of land available to the Spaniards, and all they needed was someone to perform the labor. This is where the native population came in. Missionaries began being sent out to tribes like the Patano, Timucua, Apalachee, and Guale, with two tasks in mind: convert the locals to their religion, Christianity, and deem them Spanish citizens who'd be tasked with growing crops to be sent to St. Augustine. This is where I came into the story. I was the property of a friar named Martin Prieto at the time. He first arrived to Florida in 1605 and spent a few years trying to convert the Patano people. I was a bit hesitant to assist him at first, but I quickly realized I didn't have much of a choice. By 1608, Prieto had moved on to converting the Timucua people, establishing the San Martin mission in the process. He'd start nearly every day by filling me up with one of 3 holy oils. If someone needed to be baptized or read their last rites, you can guarantee I was there, spewing holy chrism, the oil of the sick, or the oil of chrysanthemums. On days when I was given a break, Prieto would begin preaching to the Timucua at a small church he had built. He also worked with those open to his teachings to convert the Bible to a written form of the Timucua language. After Prieto had converted around 100 Timucua peoples, he decided to try and open the Apalachees' hearts to his cause. The Timucua and the Apalachee were in conflict with one another at the time, and Prieto aimed to cool the tensions with his scripture. Shocking enough to me, this seemed to work, and the Spanish successfully developed relations with the Apalachee. I only heard about this secondhand though. I'm not sure whether he forgot about me or decided he was better off, but somehow Prieto left me at San Martin. For a few decades after Prieto left, I drifted around the settlement taking any job I could get. There were always new friars coming in and out of San Martin, but after a while I got pretty sick of the taste of the holy oils. At this point, the Timucua were really living up to Prieto's expectations of them. They were growing crops like corn to be shipped off to St. Augustine. In exchange for their labor, the governor of Florida began sending the tribe's chief gifts and rewards as a type of tribute. The San Martin mission became a central piece of the trade route the Spanish developed between themselves and the natives. To get to Apalachee territory, it was necessary for traders to go through our mission. Since the Apalachee had become one of the most profitable tribes, their resources became extremely important. It wouldn't be until 1656 that this would become a problem for St. Augustine. By 1656, the native tribes were quite upset with the governor of Florida, Diego de Robledo. De Robledo's predecessor had always given each tribal chief the same amount of rewards. De Robledo decided to do away with this and began disrespecting the Timucua chief, Lucas Menendez, by giving him less rewards than any other tribe. On top of this, De Robledo was requiring men from each mission to come to St. Augustine to defend the city from a rumored British attack. In addition to the loss of men, the tribes would be expected to supply their own rations. Although they had stable relations with the Spanish up until this point, the Timucua had never really considered themselves subjugated to Florida's governor. They assumed they had more power than the Spanish were willing to give them. It was De Robero's blatant mockery of the tribe and a required military service that ignited a spark of rebellion within the Timucua. They decided to stop trade between themselves and St. Augustine, closing off the only trade route to the Appalachia in the process. When the governor heard of this, he sent men to San Martin to quell the rebellion. Battle broke out between the two, and the Timucua chief and nobility were killed. To prevent this from happening again, the Spanish chose to shift the trade route, so San Martin became cut off. While the Timucua tribe continued to exist, myself and the entirety of the San Martin mission came to be forgotten. We became relics of the consequences of colonialism. Although I started and titled this video with the claim I was drawing my life, that wasn't really the case. My life story is only one perspective from which the subjugation of the Timucua people was viewed from. I was once used as a tool to strip them of their culture, and now I exist as a reminder of what was lost. The age of colonialism has marked the end of indigenous autonomy, and sites like San Martin serve a new purpose to showcase the sins of the Spanish. If you take anything away from this video, please let it be the plight of the Timucua peoples. The privilege we have in the modern world today has come from centuries of subjugation and abuse. If this video touched you at all, and you want to ensure the future of Florida's Native American tribes and their continued history, please consider donating to the Trail of Florida's Indian Heritage or the Partnership of Native Americans.